I've been wondering more and more, do Gen Z have a private space in which they can fail? Do Gen Z have a private outlet for their creativity? So the 3 points of the video: no private outlet, only a public outlet. We're so obsessed with our content body count that we forget how enjoyable it is to be creative. 2, there's too many distractions now. 3, there's a lot of pressure for anything you make, anything you create in private to be monetized and put out there. You see these kids, you see 12-year-olds who are making like finfluencer content and want to be hustlers and have to put their things out there and have to grow a YouTube channel, and during the most developmental period of their lives, they're on the internet, and that's terrifying. That's terrifying in a way. And I feel bad that there's the pressure from society that if you're not somehow a success by the time you're 16, that you're a failure. That if you haven't made it, by the time you leave your 20s, that if you haven't made it by the time you enter your 20s, that you're not going to make it at all. That young is in. And I think that's a really weird thing. And I think that media has a real weird fetish for the young. Top 20 under 20. I'm going to tell a brief story. So when I was 16, I remember going on Facebook in 2010 and seeing all the pictures on a Sunday night that were uploaded from the Saturday evening of a party that I wasn't invited to. And I remember getting really, really angry about it. And I remember looking around my room and being like, why am I alone in this room? Can I do anything that will stop me feeling this way? That will stop the sort of blackness in my soul? That will stop me feeling envious and hateful? How can I channel this? How can I put this somewhere? And then that defined the next 14 years of my life. Because where I put it was, I wrote a screenplay. I wrote a very envious, sort of not hateful, but envious, optimistic screenplay of what my life could be. The first screenplay I ever wrote was about 4 teenage boys who are shunned by their high school peers and decide to crash 4 adult parties on the same night to try and show that they can outdo their classmates in partying and getting with girls and getting drunk and having fun and being debaucherous. And I wrote this all from my room on a lonely night when everyone else was partying and I was stuck alone in my room. And I don't think I would have wrote it if I had TikTok, or if I had social media, or if I had a good internet connection. Maybe what would have happened if I'd had a good internet connection is I would have played video games. I would have played League of Legends. I would have streamed on Twitch or something like that to sort of outlet my rage. Or maybe what would have happened if I had social media, Snapchat, Instagram Reels, TikTok, I would have made some rants, some very odd rants. Because, by the way, that the first draft of that script, it's very not good. It's very envious and hateful and weird, and it was all my rage and dark thoughts building up inside me, and I put them on a page. So what I'm asking, because that screenplay was the outlet for all my pain and my fears and anxieties and suffering. And yeah, obviously that's still available. Obviously Gen Z could go and write a screenplay and go and just create this thing. Yeah, they could still do that. They could still write things down. They could still have a diary. But it's not in private. The tendency would be to, say, make a series of video essays on YouTube, or do a rant, or live stream, or make a 9-part TikTok story about feeling left out. And that might be okay. But I think the reason that the screenplay... Okay, I'm not showing it to producers now, but the reason I developed the screenplay and kept developing it, and eventually showed it to my teachers, and eventually started writing more and more and more, and eventually made that my career, was because I developed it in private without looking for likes or followers or shares. And I developed a way to channel my soul into something. I found my outlet. And as much as TikTok and YouTube and social media can be an outlet, it's an outlet with a catch. Let's quickly define what that outlet was for me when I was a teenager, which was, it was a one-way street to dump everything I had. All my jealousy and my rage and my hate and my love and my admiration and my desire. I just... that's a great noise. Onto the page. And that's what I could do. But there was nothing coming back at me. At least until I showed it to people. And then stuff started coming back at me, and then I was like, oh shit, maybe I am a bit of a... like, I need to change some things here. But say if I was 16 now and I made a series of TikTok videos, I would be making those because I wanted to be seen and I wanted someone to engage with me. It would be a two-way street. It wouldn't be an outlet. It would be a dialogue. And I think that's healthy in some ways, but I think it's very healthy to have a private outlet. And yeah. Teenagers can go and write in their diary, but do they? Do you anymore? I really want to know. I want to know if Gen Z is keeping diaries and keeping these private things, or are they just showing everything to the world? Because this barefaced truth has become sort of a aesthetic in itself. So that's my point one. There is no sort of private outlet. It all seems to be a public outlet now. And I think it was by design. I think if I did have a public outlet in 2010, I would have done it. It was the reason in 2010, and still now, so many people are sharing Facebook statuses, which are just like, feeling sad, cry emoji, and then everyone comments on them, or like, what a day. You know what I mean? But instead I was like, no, I'm not going to do that, because I didn't do social media. That sounds so douchey. It's not that I didn't do social media. It was that I was scared to put myself out there, really. 2 is the sheer immensity of distraction. The distraction economy. The surplus of distraction available. So, 2010, what did I have to distract me from the pain I felt at seeing my classmates enjoying themselves while I was alone in a room? I could go downstairs and watch TV with my parents. I had TV in my room. There was about 30 channels, I would say. Babe Station didn't start till 11. But there was just reruns of Friends, or like QVC, or some crap cooking show, or the Coronation Street omnibus. That wasn't streaming. I had like 2 things. I had like a Friends box set, and I think I had the first season of How I Met Your Mother. And that was it. That was all I had at 16. And I had my Xbox, but you know what? None of my friends were online because they were all at this party. So I couldn't really play Call of Duty with them. League of Legends just had been released. I wasn't playing it yet. And I've never seen something so addictive. That shit is like crack. Whereas I imagine myself as a teenager, as a 16-year-old in 2024, 14 years after, I could have TikTok. I could be scrolling endlessly on TikTok, and that would sate my anxiety. Well, it would probably make me feel more anxious, but it would at least distract me from the pain for a little bit. I was looking at these parties. I was looking at these people posting pictures from a party that I wasn't invited to. I was looking at that on Facebook, so it was a bit slower. But imagine if they were live streaming it on Instagram or something, and I could watch that and feel like I was part of the party from the outside or something. I would have done that, and that would have been very, very sad. That might have been sadder than anything I'd ever done, but I would have done it because I would have wanted to feel like I belong. Or I have infinite stuff from streaming. I have Netflix, I have Hulu. I don't actually own Hulu. Netflix, the other ones, Amazon Prime. I've forgotten all the other ones. Now TV. Watch Succession. This is an advertisement for Succession. I would have watched something on streaming. The unavailability of distraction actually made me creative and actually made me push myself. And I think that was kind of nice. You know, thank God. I've always said to myself, I've always thought, man, it sucked growing up with an internet connection. My speed was 0.2 megabytes a second, maybe less than that until I was 18. You know, I had to load the private videos I watched. I had to load 10 of those at the start of the day. I had to pick the 10 private fun videos I would watch as a teenage boy at the start of the day and start them loading and then go about my day and then come back at the end of the day to enjoy the private videos because my internet was so bad. And I've always hated that. I've always thought, oh, I would have been a streamer. Oh, I would have been like PewDiePie or something. But then I think, God, I might have been actually spared from something because I was forced into creativity because I didn't have the distractions. This is not me being like the boomer. This is me being the boomer. Because that's such millennial humor that we're doing a funny voice is apparently millennial humor. Because you've all seen those millennial versus Gen Z compilations. Oh, millennial humor. I'm quirky is essentially millennial humor, apparently. Like people hadn't been doing voices for centuries. I hope, as your resident late millennial, that Gen Z does have an outlet for creativity. An outlet for creativity that isn't instantly public facing and isn't tied to likes or follows or shares or a creator program or monetary reward initially. That is just a form of expression, of self-expression and self-reflection. I don't know what that is. I guess it's a diary, or if you write yourself a little book. Because I could imagine if I had access to what I have access to now, I would have created something at 16 and immediately put it out there, and it would have been on the internet forever, because the internet is written in ink, and I would have gotten the most hateful comments in the world back, and I would have instantly been like, well, I'm not going to be a writer. I'm out. Bailed. I feel very grateful to have had formative years in private. I empathize with people in Gen Z who feel like they should do things in private because there's such a pressure now. The third thing being the pressure to produce content in your youth in public rather than developing and honing a craft in private. There's none of that anymore. People are putting their first drafts of everything online, and that shit stays there. That shit gets screen captured and will come back to haunt you later. And yeah, it's nice to sort of lurk in the public forums and talk to people. Be safe online, kids. Digital hygiene. But I think there's so much pressure to put out everything so quickly that it just ends up you're putting out sludge. And this in itself might be sludge, but at least I've attempted to do the groundwork on it. So what do we do to fix it? What do we do for the hopeful future? I don't know. Just be okay with making things in private for a little bit and then explore putting them out. Don't shame people for putting things out. Try not to shame people. Try not to pressure people. Try not to pressure creators. You don't have to post a video a week from the age of 12 onwards. That's bad. Learn to love making your craft and not do it for the likes or the followers or the shares. Learn to actually love it for the process. And I may be the most incel cuck person ever here for quoting Brandon Sanderson, but it's about the journey, not the destination. And then to quote David Mitchell, paradise is the road to paradise. So it's the craft you create along the way and not necessarily putting it out. Because the thing I found from putting things out is that often you forget how enjoyable it is to do something rather than just complete something. We're so obsessed with our content body count that we forget how enjoyable it is to be creative. And it's this linking of creativity with content that might be damaging. So yeah, I hope Gen Z finds a private space. If people are in Gen Z and they're like, yo, I have this private space, maybe it's Discord, maybe it's some little niche of Twitter, maybe it's book talk, I don't know, man. Like maybe it's a something talk where I don't go and there's this own little community, or maybe it's just in your room making these things and you make them and you listen to them and you watch them, but you don't put them out there and you say, okay, I'll come back to these in a bit. And maybe that's nice. And that could be good. And that's what I have to say about all of this. Thank you.